Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to look at the second major group of rock-forming minerals, and that's the non-silicate group. So if the silicate group is 90% of all the minerals that make up the rocks on Earth, then the other must be at least 10% or less. I think it's about 8% that makes up these non-silicate groups. Doesn't mean that they're not valuable, that they're not economically important. So we're talking about building materials, sedimentary rocks like limestone, materials for cement, for gypsum, for wallboard, salt that you would use in the kitchen, all kinds of gemstones and semi-precious stones, numerous things you would use in industry. So you're going to see a wide range of these materials, and then these materials often you'll see that they are put into sedimentary rock, for instance, as particles that then fuse together into larger fused rocks. So we'll look at some of them and some of their economic importance. So non-silicates minerals are the smaller group of minerals, but that doesn't mean that they're not important and just as easy to learn something about. It's basically, you have to remember that these are ionic bonds. Anytime you make a mineral, in order to make that mineral, the elements that are coming together have stolen each other's electrons, and something becomes positive and something becomes negative. And the different classes of non-silicate minerals are divided based upon what is the negative. What is the atom that becomes negative? Those would be the different classes of non-silicates. Some of these you can mine. For instance, gypsum is found in wallboard. Everybody that builds a house is using sheetrock, and that's gypsum. So you would mine that. So there are a lot of these different ones depending upon what it would be used for, whether it would be quarried or mined or dug out, like an underground mine or like a strip mine. Would depend on what the exact use of them will be. But there's quite a lot of different groups, and some of them are very interesting. Here's a picture of them. Halite is salt, so that's table salt, so that would be mined. Calcite, which is sometimes called Icelandic calcite, is very interesting. We've seen this before with the birefringence, which is the double refraction. So it will bend light in two different directions and actually split your vision. So to look through calcite means you see two of everything, which is pretty cool. Magnetite, you see the word magnet there, so it has so much iron in it that it's actually magnetic in itself. So this is commonly called a lodestone. Fluorite is interesting. It looks beautiful. It's glassy, vitreous luster. It glows in the dark. So not only do you see it, you see the mineral, you can also, it will glow even after you turn off the lights. There's others here, some neat stories behind each one. We'll look at a couple of them in detail. One of the most economically, I suppose, if you were to look at it from how many people would sell things that they would dig out of the ground, has to do with the carbonates. Carbonates, a lot of times, would have come from seashells. So if seashells break down and the calcium carbonate, which is on the outside of the seashell, wears down into carbonates, well then these different types of strata of buildup on, say, the bottom of a river or bottom of the ocean can then pack and then be turned into a sedimentary rock. And so you can have rocks that have lots and lots of carbonates like limestone. Our state capitol is sheathed in Indiana limestone, beautiful. It is one that would bubble. If you remember the acid test that we've talked about in the past, these carbonates would react with an drop of acid to bubble and form carbon dioxide. So there's various different ones. You can also have ores, lots and lots of iron and things can be dug out of the ground that could then later be turned into steel. All that you could sell. Cement and everything too. I was going to mention with the limestone, you would use a lot of ground stone in terms of not just the stone itself, but also the mortar between the stone. Lastly, some of these that would be very, very valuable, say uraninite, which is where you would derive uranium. Uranium is used for nuclear fuels, for nuclear power, also for nuclear weapons. So lots of people would love to get their hands on that. Corundum, remember we said had a hardness of 9, and it's used to grind with. You also have some precious stones in there. So rubies are in that. Sapphires, so rubies are red and sapphires are deep blue. Fluorite, I've already mentioned, it glows in the dark, and there's other uses for that. And then, of course, native elements. Native elements meaning that it's not in an ore, but it's just in a vein. So you can have a vein of silver or a vein of gold in a mine. All of this people would kill each other for and have, and so very useful in lots of different contexts.